Shields up, Ironbreakers. Welcome back to Kast, and today I'm here with Ratatoskr, and we're going to be doing something a little bit different because we are going to be tackling Final Fantasy VII, which is something that I know next to nothing about, which is going to be an interesting conversation for sure. How are you doing, Ratatoskr?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me again.
Oh, I appreciate you taking the time. I noticed that yesterday you were posting a video onto your channel, and then I believe you told me you deleted it or something. But like when I saw the topic of that video, I was like, oh, he knows about Final Fantasy VII. I've been looking to have like a Final Fantasy VII discussion in preparation for Rebirth, so this sounds like a perfect opportunity.
Yeah, it was a podcast episode. I had a really interesting conversation with people from my Discord, and I was like, this is good enough to put it on the channel. But I didn't plan for it to be a podcast episode. I was just going to record it and then listen to the points made later. And so like the audio quality was the worst thing on my channel, and it kept grating at me after I posted it to the point it's like, no, I have to delete it. I have to delete it. The audio quality is killing me.
You need to like maybe if you had done a little bit of post-processing work on it, you could have like fixed that.
I did the best I could, and still was just not too much.
Yes, sometimes it's like you can't fix certain headset mics. You just can't fix those. It's just it is what it is. So let me tell you how I got started with Final Fantasy so that you kind of like have a frame of reference where I'm coming from. So my Final Fantasy experience was, the first one that I played was Final Fantasy VIII. It was introduced to me by a French cousin. And so I started playing it and I thought, hey, this is actually really cool. I never played a turn-based game before. All I had played up until that moment was like real-time games because I was one of those people that thought, oh man, these turn-based games are boring. This sucks. And so when my French cousin introduced me to it, I was like, this is actually really cool. I kind of like this. So eventually I played a decent chunk of Final Fantasy VIII whenever they released a PC version because I never had a console. So I played a little bit on my cousin's console. Then eventually I played like, I think 50 hours of Final Fantasy VIII or something like that. But I had no idea what I was doing. I never played a JRPG before, so I was a complete noob, and that's pretty much where that ended. I since then tried playing Final Fantasy VII shortly after. Could not get into it in any way at all. And then eventually, I think the next time I returned, I mean, I've played other Final Fantasy titles since then, but not long enough to really like leave an impression or anything like that. And so the next Final Fantasy title that I played was 15. Okay. I liked 15 a lot. And I know that really? a lot of people don't like 15, but I was like, I think this is cool. Except for chapter 13 or whatever it was, the one where you just have the ring. I thought, okay, this one's kind of stupid. And I think that they changed that one. So overall, I liked it a lot. I didn't play like all of the DLCs or anything like that. I just played the base story. I was like, this is cool. I like this. This is whatever. And then eventually I played 14. And 14 is my favorite Final Fantasy of all time. It's like, it's not even close. And then I also played Final Fantasy VII Remake, which we'll have to get into that particular topic as to whether or not it should be considered a remake. I don't think it is, but that's something much further ahead into the
it's not
into the podcast.
Yeah.
And then since then, I've also played 16, which is friggin' fantastic as far as I'm concerned. Haven't done DLC on that one either, but I'll get to it. But that's my experience with the Final Fantasy franchise, so to speak. Oh yeah, Crisis Core. I also played Crisis Core last year, which is amazing. Love that.
Okay, all right. Well, then you'll have a good frame of reference for the upcoming changes in the remake. Since okay, you should probably put a spoiler warning, I suppose, if we're going to be talking about the remake.
Yes,
we would have to talk about the story a lot.
Yes. This is actually a good. I wanted to bring it up at the start, but I forgot. Yeah, guys, there's going to be spoilers, and like I'm going to leave nothing off the table, even though I don't know everything about the original Final Fantasy VII. There's very little chance that I'm ever going to really play it because I've given it a solid chance since then, and we can talk about that, but like nothing's off the table. So if you're scared of spoilers of the original Final Fantasy VII or spoilers of the remake or episode intermission or any of those things, or Crisis Core, if you care about any of that, just be aware nothing's off the table, okay? Just to make that perfectly clear from the get-go. So go ahead.
I should probably start and talk about my history with Final Fantasy.
Go ahead.
So my first Final Fantasy was Final Fantasy X. and it was probably like one of the earliest video games I played. Like it was like I played Ocarina of Time, and then like Final Fantasy X. Those were like two of the earliest video game memories I have.
Wait, 10? That's the one with the ball sport, right? The water ball sport.
Yes, Blitzball. Yes.
Yeah, I played a little bit of that one too. That's got Titus, and it's got that
Yes.
meme laugh thing that everybody makes fun of, but that was actually intentional.
I liked that meme laugh. It was a touching moment that people don't appreciate. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So I loved Final Fantasy X. First time I played it. I was enthralled. Because it was one of the earliest video games. Obviously, I'd never played anything like that. I'd never seen a story told in that style. Such a story.
So it was like your first JRPG.
Yeah, definitely first JRPG. And in fact, I liked it so much. I think it's. I like to joke that Yuna, the main heroine from Final Fantasy X, was like the first girl I had a crush on. Yeah, no, I love that. I eventually ended up naming my cat after Yuna. I got my whole family into Final Fantasy X, and they, it's great. I think they named the fish Titus because he could,
because you can
breathe
swim
underwater.
Yeah,
you can breathe underwater. Yeah. So I loved 10. I loved 10 so much I retroactively went back and played some of the older Final Fantasies. I played probably all of them actually, but the ones I really liked were 7, 9, 10,
you're gonna be one of those people that
6.
also don't like 8. Is that
8,
what we're
it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense.
Bro,
It doesn't make any
everybody's
sense.
a hate-ater, dude. Like that. I almost feel like there's a reason it's number 8 because you can just put an age behind it and you can kind of like summarize how most people feel about it.
It just doesn't make any sense to me. I look at the story, it's nonsensical. There was a theory I heard a long time ago that's not true because I think the developers confirmed it's not true, but that there's a theory that when Leon, when Squall gets hurt, that he's dying, and like the whole second half of the game is just his hallucination, his dream. And how it was explained to me, it's actually a very interesting theory with a lot of evidence to support it. It isn't true, but I think it would have been better if it was. It would have made more sense for all the nonsense that happened in that story.
Kind of reminds me of the whole analogy that people have for the Reaper indoctrination theory on Mass Effect 3. There's like
exactly.
Yeah.
It's like that. It's like it's not true. I don't. That they didn't intend for
but
that.
It would be cool if it was.
It would have been much cooler if it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So love 6, love 9, love 10. I didn't like 12. 10-2. I didn't like 10-2. First of all,
I bought 12 because it looked like it'd be something that I like because it feels like it's more in the vein of those JRPGs that try to kind of mimic MMOs in a way.
It's like Xenoblade a little.
Yeah. That I wasn't gonna go straight for that because I'm not familiar enough with it, but yeah, that's also what I was thinking. So I bought that one for the Switch, but I haven't really played it yet. I might get to it at some point.
Yeah, it wasn't like the worst thing ever, but I could tell there was like a significant drop in the quality of the story and the things that I care about in my Final Fantasy.
Okay.
And so 12, and then just what was it? 13. I loathed it.
Oh yeah, I've heard
13.
lots of bad things about 13, man.
Just could not stand it. I didn't play 13-2 or the following ones because I just hated 13 so much. I was like, it's really like. The thing is, like 13, it was a long time before 13 came out, and everyone was expecting it to be the best, God's gift to gaming, like the best thing ever. And I just found it deeply disappointing. And then 15, I also didn't like that much, because again, it was a long wait period, and people were hyping it up again. And it's just like, for me, it's all just been a steady decline. So from Final Fantasy X, my initial impression of Final Fantasy it was my strongest impression, and the game, but 7's probably my favorite. 7,
Okay.
Final Fantasy VII,
I mean,
original.
That will change when you play 14 for sure, but yeah.
Currently, Final Fantasy VII is my favorite.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm excited for Rebirth.
So
that's my history.
So where were you at, like, when you played Final Fantasy VII? Because I feel like for a lot of people, Final Fantasy VII is one of those formative games. So it's kind of the type of game that you play and it just like really, really marks you as something very, very special. And me, as someone that has absolutely no nostalgia for it, like I played a little bit of it, and I'm just thinking to myself, nowadays I can't. And here's the thing: I didn't even. I'm not the type of person. I played like 2 hours. I thought it was garbage. It's whatever. I made it all the way out of Midgar. I did some stuff even outside of Midgar. I was lost. I made it up until the point where you get like some kind of vehicle at some point in the game.
Oh, wow.
I believe to actually roam the world.
Yeah, you're decently far.
Yeah, so I made it all the way up to that point, and then I was just, oh man, but I'm just not having fun. And rather than just completely force myself, which is what a lot of people end up doing, and then they develop a resentment for the game, I was just, maybe it's just not for me because I don't have the nostalgia for it. So, not to mention that, look, I have a pet peeve with the original Final Fantasy, okay? With the original Final Fantasy VII. I have a pet peeve, and nobody's ever going to take that away from me. And it's that stupid soldier march, dude. No. You're not going to fool. At one point, you couldn't even tell who my character was because I was doing it so perfect, and the dude still called me out on it. I was like, nah, this is some garbage. I do not accept this. Y'all are lying.
I hope you have trouble with that in Rebirth because I saw that part in the trailers. They're going to do that again.
This is going to be beautiful. If they do it is there actually a way to do it proper? Because I did it pitch perfect, like frame perfect. You couldn't even tell who Cloud was in the middle of the sequence. And the dude was like, no, that was not good enough. I was like, well, what the hell?
Yeah, I think there's a way to do it right. I don't remember that well. It's been like a few years. But here's the thing. I also don't have any nostalgia for Final Fantasy VII because I played 10 and then I slowly started going into all of them. So I didn't play Final Fantasy VII until like 6 years ago or something like that.
Damn.
Yeah. So I was, fully grown, already a person with a lot of video game experience on his belt. Well, the thing is,
I'm sorry. Did you play it on PC? Did you play it on console?
Emulator.
Okay. Because I was wondering if you maybe like played a PC version and did some of those crazy mods that I hear about where you can actually get a proper model for, because like I cannot deal with blocky Cloud. I look at that and I know that a lot of it's so endearing. I'm like, I get it, but
I guess
it ain't for me. I can tell you right now, it ain't endearing for me.
I'm assuming you just you don't have that much fondness for JRPGs, turn-based JRPGs in general.
I don't know, because it's like I didn't play that many turn-based JRPGs. I have played some. I can't remember a lot of them, to be completely honest, because I have just like a terrible memory.
You wouldn't jive with strictly turn-based combat. Because I know you like Xenoblade, and that's not strictly turn-based. There's more to do there. There's more interactivity.
But I do, because, for instance, I love Bravely Default. I think that game is awesome. I didn't finish it, I'll be honest, because 3DS. It's very hard for me to finish games on 3DS because it's tiny, and if I'm home, I can't play 3DS. There's something in my brain, I just can't play 3DS at home.
Right,
But I played Bravely Default. I played a really decent chunk of Octopath Traveler. Love that as well. As a matter of fact, I bought both of those physically, 1 and 2. I played Bravely Default 2 as well. And I know I've played more strictly turn-based. I played Baldur's Gate 3. It's completely turn-based.
That is not the same thing. Not the
same. But I do like JRPGs, and I do like turn-based games. This is not like a big hurdle for me. Like it was back when I first played Final Fantasy VIII. But since then, it hasn't really been a problem. Like turn-based is not a turn-off.
Okay, well, so here's the thing for me. I've played a lot of turn-based JRPGs. I had this phase around my teenage years where I was like, I'm going to play every well-known, high-quality turn-based JRPG I can get my hands on because I liked Final Fantasy X so much. Mm-hmm. And so even before I started messing with 7 and 9 and all of those, and 6, I just went through all of them. Like not all of them, but I played a huge breadth of them like in the past. And first of all, I never got through every single one because every year
it's impossible.
I hear, Yeah, it's like, oh, this beloved. It's like, how can there be this many beloved cult classic JRPGs on this earth? Every year I hear about more of them, and I go, is there really like a dedicated following for this one? And every single one, Bait and Kaidos, never played it, but apparently the people that like it a lot. And so it's like it's a Herculean task, it's a Sisyphean task. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm done. But interestingly enough, I don't think I'm the type of person that's suited for the strictly JRPG turn-based combat. I don't think I like it that much, even though I've played so many of them and I love their stories. I don't think it's that great. the turn-based JRPG combat in general, and all the little fluffs that they add to it to make it interesting, usually doesn't do it for me. Like I know Octopath Traveler, people say, "Oh, the combat is so great." It's like, yeah, it's so great for a JRPG. But it's not. There are exceptions. There are obvious exceptions. I really like Etrian Odyssey, a game we're not going to spend any time on because no one's ever played it.
Oh, I've played Etrian Odyssey before.
You've played Etrian Odyssey?
Yeah.
That's not possible. That's not possible.
Yeah, I've played it. It's the one where you draw the map on the lower portion of the 3. Yeah, I know.
Holy shit.
No, yeah, I played it.
Shit.
Yeah, I don't remember which one because there's a bunch of them. I think I played 2 or 3. I didn't play it all the way because it's a 3DS game, and like I told you, I can't really finish those. But I remember spending a good chunk of time on those because it's one of those where you go through a labyrinth and you advance one block at a time and you map it out.
Yeah, you draw your own map. Yeah,
I particularly like the drawing the map part. I think that's really cool.
It was so nice. It was so nice. I can't believe you played. Okay, well, yeah, it's like my favorite 3DS game of all time. It's like one of my favorite games. I have like a 40 to 50 minute long video I'm working on, like shilling the Etrian Odyssey series.
Interesting. But so what was it about the original Final Fantasy VII that grabbed you? Because clearly it wasn't the combat. One of the things that I will say is a big thing for me, I love the soundtrack of that game.
It's got an amazing soundtrack.
The soundtrack of the game is amazing. I also like the one that, the remixes that they put on the remake and stuff. I love that.
Oh yeah, we'll talk about that a lot. The remake did a fantastic job with the quality of the music.
Of the music, yeah. So that I loved. I love that. I do like the overall vibe. I think what ended up losing me on it ended up just being when you get to the world, I just felt overwhelmed because there's all of these places that I can go to. I don't know where to go. I think at some point I didn't even actually knew what the main path, because like I was playing and then I took a break and then I came back to it and I'm just thinking, where am I? What am I doing?
What am I doing? Yeah.
So that was one of the problems that I had. But like, what was it that really captivated you about the game?
I think that at the time, so the Midgar section, I thought was magical. I just really loved the first of all, it's more linear than the open world area that you're describing. So it's like you do from thing to thing, and it was really depicting a very interesting dystopian city thing. With people with corrupt business overlords oppressing people, and you're living in the slums down here, and you're an eco-terrorist. You start the mission by being an eco-terrorist and blowing up a company's reactor, and that's the first mission, with this great music blaring in the background. Cloud is so cool with his edgy boy spiky hair, and you go through this thing and you're destroying soldiers, and the big robot comes out to blow up the Mako reactor. And so it's like this weird atmosphere that not a lot of games have ever had, even till today. So it's like, just think about the other Final Fantasies that just from the Final Fantasy perspective. When have you ever been an eco-terrorist? When have you ever lived in a stifling dystopian city that's like sucking the life out of the planet? It's very interesting.
I'm just thinking, even in terms of games that I've played, definitely Final Fantasy VII has a very strong opening with the whole scene in the Mako reactor and stuff, which is why I guess getting through the Midgar section wasn't really a problem. And I had also played Remake at that point, so I kind of knew what to expect in certain sections and whatnot. So that's why I feel getting through Midgar was actually fairly easy and engaging, because it was something that I was like, yeah, I'm invested in this part of the story, so let's do the thing. And then once I got past that is when I started slowly losing interest.
If I remember right, in the beginning of the game, there's like that shot where the camera like pans down and it gets a close-up of Aerith's face in the original. Is that right?
Yes, in the starting cinematic.
Yeah, and like I'm thinking about that now, and it's like, man, that must have been mind blowing for people.
Yeah,
at the
time, those visuals. Oh my god, this is amazing. But so it was the opening that got you, and then the eco-terrorism thing and all of that, and that just kind of grabbed you throughout the rest of the game.
Yeah, and well, I just generally think it has a fantastic story. I think it has an excellent story. And it really dangled mystery well. You weren't exact. You never really understood what was going on. Like especially with Sephiroth. Like Sephiroth was you didn't even see Sephiroth in the original game at first. The first you see of him is his sword when he impales the president of Shinra. And Shinra up to this point has been like the big bad. Like they're this corporate dystopian overlords in control of everything. And then Sephiroth just stabs his sword, and you don't even see him. You don't see him later until you see him in your memories, and then you see him doing like the damage limit against the monsters along the road to the thing. You're like, oh my god, he's so strong. And then you see him kill that serpent that's too tough for you to kill in the swamp. I think that serpent's actually going to be in the remake. And so it's like and you're like, all right, we got to find Sephiroth, and you keep going across the world and experiencing. I think it just had great pacing, especially Midgard and the early game.
So you would also argue that potentially in the later game, it's not as well paced. Again, I don't know.
There are points throughout that I think are poorly paced, and the ending areas are also, I think, easy for people to just lose interest around that point.
And why do you think that is?
Well, it's just. I guess it's because the story's wrapping up. You know, the story's wrapping up. They don't have many places left to take you. A lot of things are done. A lot of things get resolved. And so at a certain point, there's not much left other than you go deal with Sephiroth in the current or whatever current thing is happening. And the sense of urgency just isn't there. I think towards. I'm sure the Final Fantasy VII fans are going to flame me for this, but yeah, I think there's certain points that if you don't stick to what you're doing, and you take any kind of break at all and leave the game and come back, you're completely lost. And
I also seen like people do a bunch of side content. So the original 7 has a ton of optional content that is completely missable, completely off the beaten path, and all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm. They have super bosses that are really hard.
Like, are the weapons, are those optional?
Yes, some of them. Like some of them you have to do, some of them you don't have to do. Emerald and Ruby weapon are optional, and Emerald weapon was absolute bullshit. Still angry about Emerald weapon. I never beat it.
see, you'll be able to beat it in Final Fantasy XIV.
Oh, is it in 14?
Yeah, they have the weapons quest line. Yeah.
Nice.
I'd like to say more, but I eventually, if you do it, I think you'll be very surprised with the way that they tackle the weapons. I thought it was really cool. But now I also wanted to ask you about some of the surrounding titles. So, did you play? Which one is it? The really obscure one, the Dirge of Cerberus, or whatever it's called.
I did. Yeah, I did. I did play Dirge of Cerberus.
Did you like that?
I have a complicated relationship.
That's like me talking about Lies of P. Me in this game, we have a complicated relationship. But
I think I liked it at the time, and I liked the gameplay. And it's Vincent with a gun, and you're shooting stuff. I just didn't think it was like story-wise was that great. But I don't remember that much anymore because it's been a while, and I'm more upset because I don't necessarily want any of the Dirge of Cerberus stuff to come and fill a role in Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth, and it's already confirmed that there is because you see. Did you play the DLC? Did you play the Ruby, Yuffie stuff in Intergrade?
Yes.
Okay, so
I did that little stupid fort game all the way. Like I was the master of the fort game. I was amazing at it. I hated it.
I played the shit out of that in the original. I loved that stupid fort game. It was so much fun. But it was actually a fort in the original that you were defending from Shinra soldiers.
Oh, so it's not a little board game like
Yeah,
you
it wasn't a
had.
board game. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, it functions like a board game, but it was a you put your soldiers and you stop the Shinra soldiers from coming up the mountain. It was great.
Okay. I didn't think it was amazing in intermission. Like I played it, I thought it was interesting. The thing that I thought was annoying is that I felt like every time you were fighting someone, they always had one over on you, so it wasn't fair, and you had to rely a little bit on RNG or just getting the right thing at the right time. I don't remember exactly what the rules were, but I do remember it feeling unfair because he just has this one unit that just destroys everything. This is some garbage. But I did beat it, and I think was I playing on the harder difficulty? I don't know if that even had the
An
difficulty
effect.
selection.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't remember, but yeah.
So I didn't play Intergrade. I'm not going to, but I do know kind of what happens, and I know that at the end, like Weiss is there, and Weiss is the main bad guy from Weiss. Weiss is the main bad guy from Dirge of Cerberus, and Yuffie's friend that she's with gets killed by one of Weiss's people. That whole group of people that was in Dirge of Cerberus. I just don't like them. So I'm like, well, I guess we got to deal with that plot point sometime in Rebirth or the third game.
Yeah, I was wondering who that Nero guy was, who is the one.
Yeah, he's from
kills.
Dirge. He's from Dirge for Cerberus.
Because I've never seen that character before. I was like, oh, who's that guy? He's just coming out of nowhere. So what about Crisis Core? Because Crisis Core I played last year, and I was like, bro, Crisis Core is friggin' amazing. I love this game. This game's really cool. I mean, I played the reunion thing. It's not the classical one, but I think it's pretty much the same thing, just better visuals.
Yeah.
It's an actual remake as opposed to Final Fantasy
As opposed to this, yeah. I don't like it.
You don't like Crisis Core? Why?
I like some things of Crisis Core. Like I like Zack. I love Zack. Everybody loves Zack.
Okay, Zack is awesome. Zack is better than Cloud. Let's just establish that.
Yeah, okay. That's I would have said that before I saw Cloud in Remake, but I really like Cloud's early edgy boy attitude in Remake. I think they nailed Cloud in his thing. He's perfect. I sometimes complain about how do you play Devil May Cry?
Yes, I played Devil May Cry. I mean, I've played some of them.
Have you played 6?
6?
And 3? Sorry, 5 and 3?
I played 5, and I've played a little bit of 3. I didn't play it all the way.
So I love Dante's old aesthetic and attitude. So he's like this cool rock star guy. He's the eternally cool rock star guy. And in 5, they made him older, and I understand why they did that. I guess they want Nero as the main character, but he's old now, and I just don't like looking at him. I just don't like. No, not my Dante. My Dante's eternally young, cool rock star guy.
What do you got against old people?
Well,
No,
they can't appreciate Final Fantasy VII as they should.
I see where the problem is.
But with Cloud, I really thought like his edgy boy attitude wouldn't age well. I thought it wouldn't work well in 3D visuals with a voice actor and actually having to see it on the screen. But no, it's good. It's great. I might prefer it to how he was in the original, honestly. I love his whole thing. I really do think they did a great they did a great job with most of the characters in the remake. I love Barrett. I love Aerith, Tifa, Cloud. All of them are great.
See, they killed the character I like the most.
Which one?
Jessie.
No, she's alive.
I thought she died.
Yeah, but it's a bait and switch. She's alive. All the Avalanche members survived at the end of the remake.
That's such a weird thing. But just real quick, back to Crisis Core, right? So
yeah, I hate Genesis. That's why I hate Genesis. That's why I don't like it. I hate Genesis so much. I hate his little poetry book. I hate his existence. I hope he's not in the Rebirth.
Oh,
and if he is, I hope Sephiroth just cuts him the fucking half immediately.
It's not happening, but I feel like Crisis Core gave me an additional appreciation of the Final Fantasy VII universe, so to speak, because you get to see some of the stuff that happened behind the scenes that I personally thought was really interesting, and you get to know more about Zack. You get to know how Cloud comes to be the way that he is. And Cloud's like, oh, at the beginning of the remake, he's like, oh, life is so hard for me. I'm a soldier, first class. And I was like, bro, I've played Crisis Core. Life ain't that bad for you. Shut the hell up. Like, constantly bitching about, like, bro, shut the hell up. It's not that bad. Chill. So
how much do you know about the original game storyline? Do you know a lot of the basic plot? Because a lot of people know a lot of the basic plot points, even if they never played. I
mean, what I know is that at some point, Aerith gets stabbed in the back by Sephiroth, and then eventually the party goes and kills some mutated Sephiroth who's absorbing, I'm assuming, like the, what do they call it, the life stream or whatever?
Yeah.
That's so pretty much
Sephiroth,
it, right?
Yeah, Sephiroth kills Aerith. That's a major. Everybody knows that. Okay, good.
So, but at that point, that hasn't happened yet. So Cloud's really got nothing to complain about. Not to mention, I like Aerith less now because she's just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go and be Cloud's girlfriend because I don't care about Zack. Like, what the hell's up with that, bro? Whatever happened to loyalty?
Zack's dead.
She doesn't know that, does she? I don't even.
I think
know.
I'm almost certain she knows that. Positive, she knows that. Yeah, she knows Zack's dead.
But supposedly Zack survived in the remake.
So yeah, okay, we should probably talk about let's move into that.
Let's move into the remake. So
okay, it's not a remake. It's not a remake.
That's the first thing. I even have that as like a note in my bullet points. Is it a remake? That's question number one.
Let's establish that. It's not a remake. A remake attempts to retell the same story, do the same game again with like nicer graphics and updated visuals and voice acting. That's what a remake is. This is not a remake because Aerith and Sephiroth have memories of the original game's events. They know what happened. And the Whispers are metaphors for the multitudes of fans that didn't want the game changed. And they're out here trying to stop, this has to happen exactly the same way. No, Barrett got stabbed. That didn't happen in the original game. Let's heal him. They're trying to keep things exactly the same. They're trying to preserve the timeline.
It's an interesting meta commentary in a way, if we even have the right interpretation, which I'm not sure if that's the proper interpretation or not, but
I'm positive, but yeah.
Yeah. So before we even move forward, my first question that I have is, would you have preferred an actual remake as opposed to what you got? As a fan of the original Final Fantasy VII.
I'm sympathetic with the people that would have wanted just a remake. That's what was advertised. That was what they were promised. And they didn't get that. And I think I'm very sympathetic with them. And I'm totally... I would normally be on their side, but I hate remakes. I hate remakes so much, as you may know. I'm the anti-remake guy. I think it's a good thing that it's not a remake because they would ruin it. They would ruin the original. My issue with remakes is that they do damage the original content. They damage the original material. Because
it depends on the remake. I don't think that go ahead.
Let me explain what I mean. The remakes often replace the original, and then people say, oh, you don't have to play the original, just play the remake. And I find this problematic when the remake changes the tone or the atmosphere or interesting things about the story or things that they intended back in the day that they don't like now, and so they change them. Or the people that are developing the remakes misunderstand what made the original good, and they don't add those things. There's all kinds of little things that can go wrong with the remake, even something as simple as the Ocarina of Time 3D thing that came out for the 3DS. I don't like the colors on that.
Oh, is it different from the original?
Not in big ways, but I don't like the colors. I prefer the older models. I don't think Link looks as good as he did back in the thing. But really, it's almost fine. It's just the colors I think are wrong, and the colors give a different tone than to the game than the original. And I'm like, we should preserve as much of the original as possible because we don't really understand what made a lot of these games magical. It's art. Art is weird, and we don't know exactly what it was that gave it its spark. So then you got really terrible one. Okay, let me put it this way. You're a third fleeter. You played Tri and 3. Did you play Tri and 3 Ultimate?
Yes.
From other third fleeters that I've spoken to, there are some that prefer Tri to 3 Ultimate. And what they'll tell me is like, oh, they had different lighting. They had a different atmosphere with it. The fact that it was shorter and there was less monsters.
The colors are way more vivid in 3 Ultimate, without a doubt.
Right.
Which personally I prefer.
Right. Okay. But there's people that are like, I preferred the more muted colors.
The more
I liked.
Muted, yeah.
Yeah, I liked that. And there was a lot of design choices that they made in Tri that I think that some people think made it a better experience. And so then there's 3 Ultimate. And some people will be like, well, 3 Ultimate's just the superior experience. It's just, you don't have to play Tri at all. You don't have to appreciate the things that you like. I think what people want when there's a remake is they want people to experience the thing that they experience in a way that they can handle in today's modern standards. So the nice graphics and the nice music and the nice voice acting, they lubricate the experience, but they want them to experience a lot of the same moments and story. And so I think it's perfectly fair if there are people that are upset. I am not upset because I would be one of those people that prefers Tri to 3 Ultimate, and it's like, okay, you robbed something when you made 3 Ultimate. The colors are not right. This isn't correct. And so the fact that it's not a remake is a good thing, because it's actually a sequel or a sidequel or a continuation, a remake in the sense that the world was remade. It's an addition to the story. And if you really want to appreciate the addition to the story, you actually have to play the original story, kind of, or you have to like the original story, or it's an incentive. Well, you don't have to, but it's an incentive for people to play the original, because it's not like the original. It doesn't replace it, and it doesn't pretend to replace it. Nobody can say, oh, this is better, you don't ever have to play the original. It's like, no, if you like this, you might love the original. Go give it a try. So I think this is vastly preferable.
Yeah, I usually try and put myself in people's shoes. Like if I was to get a remake of a game that I've previously played in the past, I try to think, would I prefer, the exact same experience that I had, but just with better visuals? Or would I prefer like a slightly different experience, kind of like what they're doing with the Final Fantasy VII Remake? And I find myself to be a little bit more inclined to what they're doing with the Final Fantasy VII Remake, but I can understand, again, I can also understand that people that want the other aspect of it.
Yeah.
But it does put people like me that are coming in at this new point at kind of a bit of a crossroads, because like, well, I want to play the old one, but then I played it and I was, maybe I don't want to play the old one, but I do want to know what happens. Luckily, there's a bunch of videos of people that will give you like the entire summary and all of the plot points and conspiracy theories and all of these things that take place in the Final Fantasy VII universe, which is good, but it's not the same thing as playing it. So I'm constantly feeling the pressure to go back and play 7 again and actually finish it eventually. But it is an interesting take on an existing story, but at the same time, I also feel like their marketing is a little bit deceitful due to the fact that they just said, hey, this is Final Fantasy VII Remake. That's what it says on the box, straight up. This is Final Fantasy VII Remake. Like the box even only has a very small text that says, on the back of it, like very small text that says, hey, this is only the Midgar part of the adventure, or this is only the first part in a multi-part project. So there's going to be a lot of people that are just going to pick it up and they'll be like, oh, it's like that game that everybody's always talking about, except it's a modern version of it. Oh, let me go ahead and get this and, I'll just play it, and now I don't have to play the old one. And they might even have no idea that things are different, and they might not understand what happened in the original because they're not always online like a lot of us are and checking up on all of the little things and the nuances that are happening around the game.
Yeah, I think always online people like us and the people that are probably listening to this podcast don't fully appreciate how many people aren't like us and aren't always online and don't watch YouTube every day. Watch YouTube every, even a normal person that watches every 3 days or something, catch up on a little bit of, people are busy. When you think of the scope of people that brought something like Tears of the Kingdom, 30 million, or Breath of the Wild, 30 million, that's a lot of copies. And then you look at people that look at lore videos or like look at the views on a very popular Dark Souls video. So, it'll get millions. But, Elden Ring sold 30 million or something like that copies. And so like that's a lot of people that have never seen Vati's lore videos. You know, it's never seen, that don't know anything about that, aren't part of this community in that way. So they're still part of the Elden Ring fans, but they're not part of a community that communicates. And I think that probably most people are that way.
Yeah, which again is a problem, just because some people will have expected something different when they just see Final Fantasy VII Remake in the box, which I kind of feel like that's not entirely fair. But you know, we as YouTubers, we a lot of times also have to do stuff like clickbait titles, so it's like
right.
It's a business thing that everybody does something like that. Now, the thing that I do want to ask, how do you feel about the fact that it was divided in multiple parts? Because I remember when it was originally announced, I had a lot of people in my Discord server that are very passionate about Final Fantasy VII, and this was like the first thing to them that was this huge, egregious insult that they could not stand the fact that the game was divided into multiple parts. Like, oh, they're just milking it down for money, and I can't believe that this is happening. And I'm not saying that's not the case, mind you, but I'm just curious, how do you feel about it?
I suppose I'm fine with it because it depends on the stance that you're taking. Like obviously, like I already presented my stance. I'm okay with this because it's not really Final Fantasy VII. It is something else that's a continuation. So they can't soil anything. Like people have a sense of sacredness with the things that they love and they enjoy. And when they see something violating that sense of sacred, they get up in arms. But like I've already divorced that part of it from my mind because it's not Final Fantasy VII. You know, as soon as you accept that it's not Final Fantasy VII and you stop thinking of it that way, you'll get less angry and you'll enjoy the whole thing more. You're like, even if you hate the game and you're like, they ruined everything. Now you can just enjoy the shit show. You can play it and enjoy the shit show. It's like, oh, look at them ruining my plot points, ruining my story beats there. Look at all this filler content. And you know, Final Fantasy VII Remake did have a lot of filler content.
That's one of the points that I was going to bring up. So please expand.
Yeah. The Midgard section in Midgar. Yeah,
I think it's Midgar.
Yeah, the Midgar section in the original doesn't take that long. It's not a 40-hour experience to get out of the city. And so like this just dragged. It dragged for me. And I started off like doing all the side quests and enjoying all the side content, but eventually I just stopped. Like, let's just go. Let's go to the next part. I distinctly remember this part where you're going through the junkyard with Aerith, and there's this mechanical hand part where you have to help Aerith get across with it. And that's like a 7-second part in the original Final Fantasy VII, that hand. And it's just this whole ordeal. It's like, man, I don't care about this. I don't want to actually pick up every item when I don't want an animation for every time I pick up an item off the ground and Cloud goes and picks it up like an old man and has to get up slowly. No, just give me the item. Don't even put an animation. Go over to the item, pick it up, go. Let's move it. It's taking too long.
Again, as somebody that hadn't played the original at that part, initially when I first went through it, it was fine. But going through it a second time, because I did start a hard playthrough, I ended up not really finishing that. But I did start a hard playthrough, and the second time that I was going through it, I was like, man, there's a lot of stuff in here that I really don't feel like doing again. So I can understand the criticism of filler padding, but at the same time, the first time around, I didn't really feel like that was a huge problem. It was only the second time around where I started feeling, okay, this is maybe a bit much. Maybe I don't feel like doing all of these things that you guys want me to do. And I kind of feel that for a second playthrough, those things should be made more optional. I think you're still expected to do them because you do get rewards that let you min-max your character further and stuff like that. And when you're playing in harder difficulties, you do want to min-max your character. But I almost wish that, hey, you've already played this on normal. We don't want you doing side quests now. Like that part of the game is done. Just enjoy the main story beats, and we'll reward you more for the main story beats or something so that you can min-max your character. It's kind of something that I wish they had done with 16 as well, because I've been doing 16 on the Final Fantasy mode or whatever it's called, the higher difficulty, and it's not necessarily more challenging, and what ends up happening is I just go through the side quest and I skip everything. I skip all the
Right.
dialogue. I just skip literally everything in the side quests because I've already done them. I know what happens in them. I like doing them the first time. I'm not even the guy that complained that much about side quests. They didn't bother me at all. But the second time around, it just feels, okay, this is too much. So that would be something that I would like to see them do. If they're planning on doing the same thing with Rebirth, where you have, first you play it on normal, then you can play it on hard. Well, I don't want to be doing side objectives when I'm going through on hard. I want the big main story beats, unless it's a side objective of, there's a super boss over here that you can go do. Sure, I want to do that, but I don't want to do, the 50th fetch quest to go get something or do something completely meaningless, right?
How did you like the combat?
I liked it a lot. I thought it was actually pretty good. I had no notion of what materia was supposed to be like because I didn't play the original. So I didn't know that you were expected to combine materia in certain ways, and that would give you specific weird synergies between different types of materia. But when that kind of clicked, because I do remember, I think I streamed it on Twitch and then I uploaded the episodes to my second channel. But I remember that when that clicked, because chat kept telling me, you can combine this material with that material. I was like, wait a minute, what? That was like, ooh, look at all this experimentation I can do now. This is insane. Leveling up like all of the swords and upgrading all of the things because different swords had different materia slots and then you could do different spells in different ways. I remember experimenting a lot with it. And the cool thing is that I think that by the time that I stopped playing the game, I remember having in my mind that every sword that you gave to Cloud, because I mostly played Cloud, even though you could play the other characters and I understood the mechanics of the other characters, because every now and then I would swap between them to get something specific. I particularly remember Tifa, thinking that Tifa was one of the most powerful characters.
She's strong. She's so strong.
I remember thinking that. I remember that every now and then I would swap the Tifa to get like something super powerful off and then swap back to Cloud. But my thing at the end was remembering that every sword that you can get for Cloud has like a purpose. So you would get a sword and it'd be like, this sword is really good if you want Cloud to cast very powerful spells. Whereas this sword is very good if you want to have like Cloud be very good at melee damage. This sword provides melee defense and so on and so forth. So I experimented with all the swords and did different materia stuff with all the swords. And I thought that part of it was actually really fun.
I'm in a position where I really do think the combat is good, but I didn't like it.
Interesting.
But it was so the first time I played and the only time I played, I just wanted to get more to the story. I was like, whatever, I don't care about this combat. And so I didn't engage with it on its terms. I didn't do a good job of engaging with it. So I was like, whatever. But in retrospect, thinking about it, it's like, oh no, they had a lot of depth, like a lot of hidden depth that I didn't mess with. And I can tell it's good now. Like I know it's. I don't actually have to experiment. I know that combat is actually deep and fun, and will probably be a lot better in Rebirth. So I'm looking forward to that. If I might stream a little, I might play it again, just because man, I love that opening section. Did you
do the Don Corneo's optional stuff in the arena where you fight like more like harder versions of the enemies in the arena? Because there was a segment that you could do. I think you do it the first time in order to get approval or whatever it was for the whole Don Corneo thing. And then after that, you can go back there and you can fight some more. And I remember having some really tough fights in there that you kind of needed to master the gameplay in order to get through those.
I didn't mess with any of that.
You didn't do the optional VR stuff either?
I did like a couple of them, but I really didn't like the VR kid. Like I didn't like that kid.
Chadley. Yeah, that kid.
Yeah, Chadley.
I didn't like him either.
All of the new characters are kind of not great. I didn't like the motorcycle soldier guy.
I liked him. Speed Demon. Speed Demon was badass.
He's okay. But I really did love all of the original characters. All the original characters, I think they brought them to life. Did a fantastic job.
That's one of the things that I noticed because in preparation for this, like yesterday, I was watching a bunch of people that did commentary on the remake and their feelings on it, negative videos, positive videos, all of that stuff. I was looking through all of that to see what had been the overall sentiment of a lot of people. And interestingly enough, even the people that didn't like the remake, a lot of them still enjoyed the portrayal of the original characters, which tells you a lot about whether or not they've done a good job, I feel.
There's a lot to praise. Like I'm not just a hater. Like the parts that I enjoyed, I really enjoyed. I actually wasn't even interested in playing the remake originally, but then they released the demo with that whole early section where you blow up the reactor, and I played the demo, and so it starts off. It's like it does the zoom in, the iconic zoom in shot of Midgar, and then it does the cloud on the train. Then he jumps off the train, and the music starts blaring, and it's like the finest music I've ever heard. The remake's music is so excellent that I think it might be better than the originals. In a lot, the Airbuster boss battle's so good.
Airbus! Oh my god!
Holy shit!
The first time I heard the Airbuster theme, I was like, "What the hell is this? This is amazing!" You get so hyped when you're going through that. Oh my god!
I was just in awe the entire time, and so like they had these remixes, these excellent remixes of the original music. You're going through the Mako reactor, and I think there's one song, the very first time you fight enemy soldiers there in the beginning, that's never used again. I'm pretty sure it's one song. It's a remix of an old song from Final Fantasy, and it's just fantastic. It's just fantastic, so good. And then they never played again. They never played again, ever again. And so you're going through the Mako reactor. It's just great. The tone, the atmosphere is fine. Then they do that shot where he's looking up at the Mako reactor. It's the cover box art. It's like my heart. It's like it's hitting me all in the right notes. Then you get to the boss battle at the bottom of the thing, and you fight those scorpion dudes. So good. Everything was great. I even liked the mystery of things like not happening exactly the same way. Shinra's like looking at you. The bomb doesn't go off. You see Sephiroth's little feather there, and the music starts playing a little bit. And then you see Sephiroth in the fire. And then you're like, hey, what's going on? What is this? So, but like, I didn't realize yet that they were changing things at that point.
And so
what,
I just... Yeah, what was it like the very first time you saw Sephiroth in a place where he shouldn't have been?
I know, I loved it.
Oh, loved it. Okay, so you weren't like, oh man, I can't believe they're doing this. You were just like, no, this is awesome.
No, well, the thing is, more than anything, my curiosity has been piqued by what they're doing, because they could have just done a remake. They could have just done a remake. You mentioned this earlier, but a remake would sell. And I can tell that it would sell because they marketed it as a remake. Why? So that they could get more sales. That's what you were implying. That's why. Yeah. That's what I think. And like, that means a remake would sell. That means they think a remake would sell. But they chose not to make a remake, and they're making this. And so I'm like, what story are you telling? Like, I'm really curious where you're going with all of this, and what compelled you? What's so important story-wise? Because it's all the original people. It's all the original people, or a lot of the original people are working on it that worked on the original Final Fantasy VII. They promised a remake. They didn't deliver on a remake. They're delivering this. And I just really need to know. I almost don't care anymore about anything else. I just need to know what they're doing and why.
You need to know what the dealio is with all of the stuff that's happening. So with the Arbiters of Fate, supposedly the fans that are coming in and kind of stopping things from changing, how did you feel about that whole mechanic?
Well, as a fan of Final Fantasy VII, I was like, that's me. They're making fun of me. It was interesting because the whispers are there, and they're trying to keep everything the same, and then they're the bad guy. Like they make you fight them so that you can change things in the future. Okay, let me put this out there. There's a lot of fans that think that they're not going to make a bunch of changes. There's people that think that it's going to be fine. They're not going to make a lot of changes. The story beats will all be the same. They're not really doing it. Maybe there'll be some really interesting changes towards the third one, but Rebirth, no changes. They're not going to do nothing. And I don't think they're correct. I think that's ridiculous. I think that's nonsense. Already, they've made too many changes for things to stay the same. Number one, all of Avalanche survives. Sephiroth and Aerith have memories of the previous game, and they remember past events. And Sephiroth has new goals completely divorced from his old motivations. So he has memories of the past. He knows he loses in the past, and he's trying to avoid losing again. And so we don't really know what he's doing. He could not be working with Jenova this time. We don't know what's going on with him or what he wants. And in fact, in the trailers for Rebirth, they have Sephiroth. They have, what does Sephiroth want? And I'm like, no, this isn't like Final Fantasy VII. What does Sephiroth want? This is like, we know he doesn't want what he wanted in Final Fantasy VII. So what does he want now? Kind of trailer. There's a trailer with Aerith, like the very first trailer for Final Fantasy Rebirth, the first look. There's like a little feather falling, white feather, and Aerith's talking, and what she says is something along the lines of, "The past can't be changed, set in stone. It might be set in stone, but the future, even if it's written, can be changed." That's what she says. Direct quote: "The future, even if it's written, can be changed. So look to the future, not the past." Telling you, okay, the stuff in 7 happened, whatever, that's done, but we're going to change Rebirth. And so, like, there's so many little hints everywhere that they're changing it. First of all, Zack's alive. What's going on with that?
Yeah.
But he's displaced. He seems to be in his own timeline, because at the end of 7, if you remember, like, they walk past each other, and they can't see each other. He's walking into Midgar with Cloud, and Aerith, or he's walking into Midgar, and Aerith and Cloud are leaving Midgar, and they can't see each other. And like Aerith's like, "I hate the rain," and I was like, "That's a fascinating scene." And so then he's alive, and maybe in his own timeline happening at the same time. Maybe they're displaced. Maybe at some point they'll join. Maybe we're going to go from different parties. We'll have some time with Zack, and then some time with Cloud. I have no idea.
If
like,
if that happens, I already know that I'm just going to be like, "Hey, can I go back and play more with Zack? You know, I just want to play more with Zack. Let me hang out. I hope we get to choose. Like, I'll just play Zack, okay? all of the original Final Fantasy VII fans, you guys can play Cloud. I'll just play Zack."
Yeah. And there's this weird scene with Marlene, where Barrett is leaving. Like, he's leaving the borders of Midgar. He's heading out. And Marlene like senses it. She stops what she's doing. She senses it, and like she looks off in that direction. She's like, "Daddy." And I've heard some people speculate that he's leaving that timeline. Like, some serious stuff is happening in weird ways. Like, he's leaving that world and he's going in a different time world where things are happening differently. And like there's a lot of metaphors there, I think, that imply things are going to be different from now on. Something weird is happening. And the fans are right, I think, that there's going to be a lot of the same story beats. Too many things are too iconic, you know, including that one with the soldier march. So a lot of the same stuff will happen, but the context will be different because they're not going to be doing it for the same reason and the same goals. Again, Sephiroth's not doing the same thing. He's doing something else.
I'm super curious just to see what happens, because I feel like I'm more invested in the remake than I was when I went back and played the original Final Fantasy VII. But again, I also feel that has to do with just playing it much, much later, because I'm sure that for when this released, which was like 97 or something like that, this was like the bee's knees. This is the best game ever made, and I understand where people are coming from. But I also don't feel that, at least from my personal taste, it holds up very well for someone that is coming in as a complete newcomer to the franchise. Not to the franchise, but to this specific entry in the franchise.
Like I said before, I think it holds up, but it's like you need to be suited to it, and I don't think that I think that's the purposes of remakes. It's trying to get it to be suited for people. My hope is that this is just a window or a door that gets other people interested to play it. Like, not all of them are going to like it. It's too dated for some people. But again, I played it 5 years ago, and I thought it's my favorite Final Fantasy.
Well, so far.
Yeah, so far. haven't done 14 yet.
Yeah, but that's just the thing. I think it's interesting that they're going in a different approach. I think it's interesting that you have all of these crazy timeline things that are taking place where people have even been referring to one of the timelines as the Beagle timeline, because that's the mascot that Shinra uses for their soldiers. And then the timeline where Zack is right now, where he's alive, that's the Terrier timeline, because he was a terrier for the Shinra, the mascot for the Shinra soldiers. So it's people are drawing all of these different timelines and stuff. The biggest issue for me is that it's always going to be very hard to merge all of these things together into one coherent story, because whenever you have multiple timelines, it doesn't always work, and it can get very confusing when it comes to that stuff. And that's a bit of a concern that I have.
I'm okay with whatever they do because I think the girls are pretty.
Okay.
I think the girls are very pretty in Final Fantasy VII Remake. It's like I just love seeing Aerith and Tifa just do things. Like, oh, wonderful. best game, 10 out of 10.
So you're basically invested in the future. You're going to be playing Rebirth pretty much day one, and you're excited to see whatever stuff they come up with.
Yep, absolutely. There's so much to love about the remake, even with all the complaints that I might potentially have. Even the boss designs. The house, the house from
the Hell House.
From the
the
Hell House, so good.
I hate
such
that
a good
boss.
design.
That boss sucks. I'm joking.
It was an original boss.
It was very
from
frustrating.
7.
Yeah,
it was frustrating. Yeah, but like I loved how they took a lot of these original bosses and they like modernized them, made them their own. The president's son in the remake is so cool. Rufus is so cool. Like, he was already like supposed to be cool in the original game, but now he has that shotgun, that sawed-off shotgun. He just uses it to dash around. Like, he's like Deep Rock Galactic guy, the scout with the mod that lets his shotgun like push him around the it was such an amazing cinematic boss fight. I love that guy. And then the Turks, you get to fight the Turks, and it's just so good. Everything's so wonderful.
I feel like they're doing fantastic cinematic fights, but the thing is, it's not just about how cinematic they are, because there is depth with the materia system and all of the stuff that you can do around it, which I found very satisfying. So that's going to be something that I'm definitely going to be diving deep into when it comes to Rebirth. I want to go and do crazy ass builds with all of the materia stuff.
I really, here's another thing that I liked. Apart from that first demo thing, I was worried that they weren't going to add the Cloud cross-dressing section. I thought, well, modern audiences are a little more sensitive than they were back in the day. They might not want to give him his cross-dressing section in the Don Corneo part. And not only did they made it a whole thing, and it was hilarious because it made me like Aerith more, because in that whole section, like it zooms in her face when the Cloud dressed as a girl is revealed, and like her eyes are bulging out of her head. She's just loving it. It's like the most she's just loving that whole thing. And then as it goes on and it shows the whole thing, like she's hyperventilating. She's just hyperventilating there, just like losing her mind as she sees Cloud be a girl. It's like, oh, she likes him better this way.
I think one of the things that I feel they could have done, because I've heard that in the original, there can be situations where Cloud is not the one that gets picked, and that kind of changes the next gameplay section. And I think it would have been interesting if they had done that in the remake as well, but they made it linear apparently, because what I've heard from videos is that it's always Cloud that gets picked no matter what you do.
I don't know, but I Cloud did get picked for my playthrough. And if they did change that, I'm kind of okay with it, because that's better. It's better that way. It's funnier. I'm not worried. That's good.
There's also the whole thing where Cloud basically gets a hand job from Madam M, I think.
Yes.
So they weren't like too afraid to add like some crazy off the wall elements that you would have expected, like, oh, this has to be a more modern game. We got to tone certain stuff down. They're like, no, let's just go all out and do the things.
Is there any characters that you liked more than others?
In Final Fantasy VII
Remake.
In the remake, I think I really liked Barrett. Barrett is just like this really cool character, and I feel like they do a good balance of him, when he's struggling, kind of almost screaming and justifying, this wasn't our fault, when Shinra just decides to blow up everything in one of the Mako reactors things that didn't I think it was even the first Mako reactor that you blow up. It doesn't actually cause that much damage, but then Shinra just goes like, okay, let's amp this up. Let's make even more damage, and they just blow everything up. And then Barrett's like, oh, this was not, no, wait, it was when they dropped the plate. I think
when they dropped the plate.
When they dropped the plate, and Barrett's like, this is not our fault. And he's screaming it as almost as if trying to convince himself. And I think they've done a really good job at portraying that character. So Barrett probably one of the more interesting characters.
I really love Barrett depiction in this one. I think they did a great job with his voice. I don't often play with the English dub on a lot of these games. I played with the Japanese dub, but not with the remake. I really think they did a fantastic job. They did a good job with all the characters. I remember the scene in where Tifa like makes a drink for Cloud, and they're sitting in the bar. And he's like comparing the color. He's like, he loves the color of the drink, and he's comparing it to her eyes. They're like, damn, Cloud Riz, maximum Riz. This is great.
No, they're able to add a different degree of interactions with the characters just through their facial expressions and stuff like that. Which, interestingly enough, if you look at the visuals on 14, you might think, oh, they're not going to be able to do that. They do that. They do that to amazing extent.
You're really pushing 14.
No, me? I have no idea what you're talking about. I mean, you do have some time before Rebirth comes out. You know, you got some time. There's not a whole lot happening right now. I mean,
oh no, man, there's no time. I hope everything stays away from it. I keep hearing rumors of the Elden Ring DLC coming soon because
oh my god, dude, please.
The Namco Bandai Elden Ring playlist has been updated, and then I'm just looking at that. It's like, if it comes out anytime in the next like month or two, it's not good. I have no time for that. There's Final Fantasy Rebirth in the end of February.
Yep.
And Dragon's Dogma at the end of that month. It's like, no.
Nothing comes close to Dragon's Dogma. Y'all stay the hell away.
Yeah, please. For the I here's the thing. I probably will have to cover Elden Ring if it comes around the same time as Dragon's Dogma more. Like I just have to, because for the channel. There's no way out of that. I really want to be a Dragon's Dogma tuber. I really want to cover that and talk about it because I love Dragon's Dogma. But if it competes, no, I can't do it. Not necessarily because I'm more excited about Shadow of the Earth Tree. It's because I need that money. I need that Shadow of the Earth Tree money.
See, I'm going to play Dragon's Dogma 2 no matter what. Like I've already said, listen, when Dragon's Dogma 2 comes out, all I'm doing is streaming Dragon's Dogma 2. I'm going to stream Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I hopefully should be done with it by the time Dragon's Dogma 2 comes out.
That's what I'm hoping.
And ahead of that, I'm playing Granblue Fantasy Relink, which is coming in a little bit less than 2 weeks. But as of this recording, because I don't know exactly when I'm releasing this podcast yet. But yeah, it's a pretty stacked month. And we also have Rise of the Ronin coming up right around exactly on the same day as Dragon's Dogma, which is like, hey, fantastic. Anything else? Let's just have Shadow of the Earth Tree come out on the same day too. I mean, why not?
Yeah, I was interested in Rise of the Ronin. Then I heard it comes out the same day in Dragon's Dogma. I'm like, nope, you're going to have to wait. Nope, gone.
You can just cover that later. It'll be fine. So, what are you going to be working on in your channel in the upcoming weeks while you wait for Rebirth?
Probably just. I'm just probably going to relax and make some work on some videos that aren't typical, like they're not big money makers. I made an Earth Defense Force. Oh, Earth Defense Force 5 comes this the English localization comes this spring.
I've seen that you made a review of that already.
Yeah,
did you play the Japanese version?
No, I made a review for Earth Defense Force 5 because 6 is a continuation of 5.
So 6 is the one that's coming out, because you said 5's coming out, and I was like, what?
Oh, okay, yeah. 6
I
is the one
thought you made
out.
a review. That's weird.
I made a review of 5. 6 is the next one, and 5 and 6 are linked. They're not all connected, but 5 and 6 are in the same continuity, and I am just ready for it. I love Earth Defense Force. One of my favorite games.
See, I recently finished Base World with the whole Return to World campaign, and the next game that I'm covering is Granblue Fantasy, which comes up in a little bit less than 2 weeks.
How is that? How'd you like that?
I'll tell you in a minute, but it's like, the thing was, I don't want to start Iceborne and run through Iceborne in 2 weeks. That sounds like an absolute nightmare if you're trying to like finish Iceborne. And I also don't want to start Iceborne and then play all of these games that are coming out and then eventually continue Iceborne. Like, I want to play Iceborne and go all the way through it until Fatalis when that eventually happens. So I'm also a little bit open in terms of time now, so I'm kind of just like, oh, let's talk about Final Fantasy VII. Let's talk about all of these things that are coming up, which is interesting. But yeah, in regards to Grand Blue Fantasy, I think it's pretty freaking awesome. Play the crap out of it, out of the demo. It's really good. You can play the demo right now.
What's it like? Like, give me a frame of reference.
It's hard to explain because it's gonna feel basic the first time that you play it. Because, it's your standard action RPG. You get 2 attacks. It's stylized, anime style. A lot of people even say, oh, it's just like Tales of Rise, even though, in my opinion, plays nothing like Tales of Rise. But you have your 2 attacks, which change depending on the character that you play. And then you have 4 skills that you can equip, and you can select from a list of skills. So that's kind of how you make your build. You choose the skills that you want, then you choose a weapon. But it's just a hack and slash that feels very satisfying because it's going to involve grinding elements in a structure similar to Monster Hunter. So you have a story mode where you go through and you just do the story, which you could almost consider Village Rise, which is completely single player. You can't really do that in multiplayer. But then it opens up and you can kind of do Hub, which lets you do multiplayer. So that's kind of the basic structure of it. The thing is, you go through levels, kill a bunch of mobs, then you kill bosses. And the bosses almost feel like raid bosses, so they have very in-depth mechanics to them as to how they work. They give you telegraphs, stuff like that. But it's much more a boss fight than it is something like a hunt, because I see a lot of people drawing parallels with Monster Hunter. It's like, no, this is boss fights, not hunts. Very different things.
If it's not like a Rise, like what's the closest game you think that's similar?
I don't know. That's the thing. I just don't know. I can't. I wouldn't say it's unique. In a lot of ways, you can almost think of it like Dragon's Dogma without the open world, because you're basically managing a party of 4. The difference is you don't really choose your class and swap classes around. It's like every character has a class, and these are established characters in the universe of Grand Blue. So you get to choose which character you play, and then you form a party around that, which you can kind of min-max if you want to supplement each other's weaknesses, and you can give them like abilities where you can set somebody up as more of a healer type character, more of a buff type character, but everybody's expected to do attack. There's not a traditional tanking character, so to speak. But I think it's fun. It's just super fast-paced action combat, boss fights, grind game. That's it.
I'm interested in other, like, for example, I don't know if you're interested in this, but Helldivers 2 is coming out.
I'm very interested, but it's so close to Grand Blue Fantasy. That's the biggest problem.
Yeah, it's right soon. It's like early
it's
February.
It's on the 8th of February.
Yeah, and I might be interested in one that comes out next week. Infinite Wealth, Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth.
Yeah, I've heard about that game as well.
People keep pushing that to me, and I'm like, I'll try like Judgment this week. I'll try another one of those games this week and see if I like that, and then maybe I'm interested in Like a Dragon. I'm not even sure if they're the same kind, but I think it's the same universe.
No, it's not the same universe, but at least I don't think that Judgment is the same universe, because Infinite Wealth is part of the Yakuza series, I'm pretty sure. I don't think
Judgment's not?
Judgment is... I think Judgment is something that is made by the same people, but it's not necessarily the same universe. I'm not sure. I'm not super inside the whole Yakuza lore. Like, I know that those games are apparently really fun. It's just one of those rabbit holes that I can't afford to dive down into at this point.
Right. And then there's Unicorn Overlord, which comes out March 8th.
Yeah, I've heard about that one as well.
And I don't have any experience with that kind of game, but it's Vanillaware, and I like Vanillaware.
That game actually reminds me a little bit of Fire Emblem almost, from what I've seen of it.
Yeah, and I haven't had a good Fire Emblem in a while, because there are no good Fire Emblems in a while.
Fire Emblem Engage was fun. What the hell?
Oh, no.
See, Three Houses was the exception, actually. Three Houses was very different from all of the other Fire Emblems, from what I'm told. Three Houses is almost like the Persona of Fire Emblem.
It has Persona-like
There you go.
Gotcha. But that's okay. But look, I don't like Engage. I don't like the look of it. I don't like anything. Like, okay, how about this? I've heard great things of the combat. Everyone tells me, oh, the combat's great.
Yeah,
the combat's great. Wonderful. But it looks awful. The character models look awful. It's very everything looks like a VTuber.
You're looking You're
everyone
talking
looks,
specifically about the main character. I'm not the biggest fan of the main character design either.
I saw a clown girl with a dress and pink hair or something. They all look like they're VTuber avatars. They all look awful. They don't look like Fire Emblem characters. Even in the press, Fire Emblem characters are stylistic. You know, they are kind of like over the top.
But there's a bunch of returning Fire Emblem characters.
That's another problem. You can't tell a good story with a bunch of returning characters. You can't give them voice acting.
It's fine. They're spirits.
They're just JoJo stands. They're just JoJo stands. And I'm like, there's like no point in them being there. This is an anniversary title that they're making.
I thought it was cool. I played a decent chunk of it. I had a good time, except with that one axe guy. Fuck that guy. That guy sucks. He missed every attack, dude. Every single attack. I gave him every opportunity to succeed, and he would mess up every single time.
There's just a lot of Fire Emblems I don't like these days. Like, I didn't like Engage. I don't like Fates. I don't like the mobile game that they made. I don't like the only ones I like really at this point are At this point, the only thing I like is Three Houses. I
think you just like Persona. That's what you like.
No, I don't.
You don't like Persona?
No, I do. I do like Persona. But that's not the point. That's not why. Three Houses is an exception, but I like the old Fire Emblems before Awakening changed everything. Like, I like Path of Radiance, Blazing Blade, and no, the Binding Blade. And what was the last one? Whatever, it doesn't matter.
I don't know, but yes, I've heard very good things about Unicorn Overlord. But again, it's too soon. That's the problem. Like, all of these things are too soon, because like Unicorn Overlord is too close to Rebirth. That's the issue. Everything. It feels like most of the games that are super interesting this year, they're all coming out within the first 3 months.
I'm not sure it's that close to Rebirth, because Rebirth's at the end of the month and Unicorn's like, you're right.
Isn't it close to the start of March?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're right next to each other. Yeah.
That's the problem.
There's just too much, and there's Dragon's Dogma right after. I think this is going to be worse than last year. Everybody talked about how you don't think so?
I mean, for me, it's not, because I've already decided, look, I'm covering 3 games out of all these games that are coming out. I'm covering 3 of them. Okay. And the other ones, we'll talk about those later if I get around to them. As a matter of fact, I made a video at the start of the year where I said there are 5 titles that I want to cover this year. 5. I don't even remember what the 5th one is. I know that there's these first 3, and then there's Light No Fire that I want to cover, and then there was one more that at the top of my head I can't remember exactly what it was, because I have terrible memory. Sucks. But yeah. Anyway, guys, there's going to be links to Ratatoskr's channel. We just want to talk a little bit about Final Fantasy VII. We're both excited for Rebirth. We're both going to be covering it, so make sure to subscribe to him as well. I'm sure he'll have some very interesting opinions to talk about, with a little bit more depth to the Final Fantasy VII side of things than me. But yeah, that's going to be it. Any final comments?
No, I'm good. Thanks for having me, as always.
Oh, thanks for making the time. We'll see you guys in the next one. Stay strong. Stay safe. Peace out.